you. We got some recognitions tonight, and we will start with the WASDA Child Advocacy recognition.
Very well, thank you. The first recognition of tonight is actually for two community groups that have been very much an advocate for children here in the Mineral Point community. They were nominated in the Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators Association as being a child advocate for a business group here in the Mineral Point community. And our first recipient of that certificate and recognition is Cummins. Here today is Vipul Srivastava, and he is with the HR department as their manager, and Amanda Tollefson, who is their business manager. So if you two would just stand, and I'd like to share a little bit about what Cummins has done to be a great advocate for our children here in Mineral Point. They have supported our Project Lead the Way program, which is our science, technology, engineering, mathematics program, by both giving us equipment as well as coming into the schools and being part of our hands-on project-based learning. So they're actually in the school helping us and helping our children learn. They've awarded thousands of dollars worth of scholarships to Mineral Point High School graduates over the years. They have gifted thousands to improve our playground and make it a safer environment for our kids. They have also been an integral support system for our elementary Oak Savannah that they help us to maintain and keep up. The employees visit classrooms, they work with students, and they teach our elementary students about the history and customs of some of their company's home countries around the globe. The district is incredibly grateful for all of their efforts and a decade-long plus presence and support of its students. So I'd like to recognize Cummins for your support. Banner that is signed by many of our elementary students, so we'd like to share that and allow you to take that home and share that and probably display that at Cummins as a great partner and advocate. And we have some certificates for you as well, and I'm sure Joel wants to do a photo opportunity.
I'd love to do a photo opportunity.
And our board members would love to shake your hand on the way out, so please allow us to do that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me out. That is cool. Like another photo. Then you guys want to just slide the banner in? I'm not in the picture. No. That's fine.
There you go.
That's fine. That's enough. All right, here we go. Angie? 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again. Yeah. Thanks again. You bet.
Thank you again. Our second group that's receiving an award this evening, that was the business category in the individual community-based organization. Mineral Point School District would like to recognize the Kiwanis Group. I am proud to serve as the president of the Kiwanis, Joel Doi as the vice president. We have our board members Lucille May, Nancy Graber, Lisa Hay here as well as member Sue Geglinger. Any other Kiwanians here today? If you could stand if you're a Kiwanian, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. This is the heart and soul of our community with regards to the advocacy on the individual community-based award. The Kiwanis is legendary for their Student of the Month program, and that has been around for quite some time, since the late 1960s. They've awarded thousands of dollars of scholarship each spring to graduating seniors. Pi Day on March 14th is a combined effort with the middle school and high school math departments, where they serve pi and encourage students to memorize digits of the irrational number pi. The Kiwanis is also a proud sponsor of the high school Key Club. Don Hay is currently serving in that role and has done a wonderful job of growing that program. Another children's effort that spans decades is the Elementary Read-In, which Nancy Graber has taken over and organized and led for many years. We also are part of the annual Easter egg hunt and annual Halloween costume, not directly related to academics, but certainly a community opportunity for our children. Mineral Point Kiwanis is also a proud sponsor of the National Honor Society ceremony that just recently happened. And Kiwanis also gives talented high school musicians a stage when they perform at our annual Christmas party. And lastly, Mineral Point Kiwanis is just simply a proud advocate for children of all ages in the Mineral Point community. So I want to thank you very much for your support. Come on up, please, and represent our Kiwanians.
Luke, you're in this probably since you're in Kiwanis, I would guess. This is for our secretary.
Do you want me to stand up?
Yeah, if you want to, Angie, you can, sure. Jeff, you might need to, or you guys can slide down in front of the Wilson family. Just cover them up. She's right there. Yep. Got a good one in your backside. Oh, good. Oh, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
It took you till the last one, so.
Our next recognition is our FFA group. And I know some of them are lined up in the hallway, so if we can have them join us, that'd be great. Welcome, and Mr. Robinson's here. Would you like to share a little bit about the recent accomplishments of the FFA?
Sure. Thank you for inviting us and having us here tonight. A few of our students weren't able to make it. They have some other commitments tonight, and Scott Pitts being one of them, going on the speaking contest. These are some of our career development event students that are going on in their state competitions as well, qualified to go on to that. We have a livestock team with a couple of members, Morgan and Martina. Missing a couple others here tonight. Vet science team, which is Katie and Jake. And there's a couple that had softball commitment there. And then on our wildlife, we have Austin and Brady here, and also missing Jacob and Jacob from that team, but they'll all be going on. Brady was the winner at our district, which is the first time we've had somebody win the wildlife particular portion of that as an individual. And our livestock team is qualified for their 16th straight year in a row to be able to go on the state level. And so they all have some aspirations here at the end of the month to hopefully win their events, and if they do, they go on to the national competition, which we have been fortunate to do in other years. So we were hoping that that carries through for this year as well.
Congratulations. Like to just take some time, shake your hand.
Well, why don't you guys go over there and we'll just turn them out this way? Is that okay? Go out the door.
Have to come this way?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Morgan, thank you.
Exit left.
Exit. What do we do? Just go through the teacher's
Go through here.
Okay.
We'll brag about that. Congrats, Jay.
Hold on, Mike. Our next recognition is our cooking club. Welcome. The cooking club is organized by Miss Julie Pompos. And Julie, do you want to do some recognitions and some introductions and a little bit about the program?
Okay, we started an after-school cooking club last fall. Well, actually last spring, it was late winter. So it was a group of kids, I opened it up to high school, middle school. So what it ended up being were my collection of middle school misfits is what I called them. So anyway, we had a blast. So some of them came with some cooking skills and some did not. You know, they like to eat. So that was primarily why they were there. You know, we did a round table on why you're here. So every session varied. It was probably, I don't know, maybe about 10 students came consistently, give or take. So we did that. It was a lot of fun. We were able to take the old home ec room and kind of revamp it. I wrote a grant and got like $2,000 worth of supplies, cleaned things up. And then this year, something came across my desk for a cooking competition, a state cooking competition. It's called Whipping Up Wellness. And 32 teams entered in the state. So I put together a subgroup of the cooking kids, and we followed all the guidelines for the DPI, and we came up with a team. You had to start from scratch with a recipe. So I brought in Charlie Sochard, former owner of MP Dining Company, has a background as a French chef, has been in the industry for many, many years. So whenever I need help, I always ratchet it up really high. So I invited Charlie to join, and he graciously did. It's been a great opportunity. You should see these kids handle knives. Right? They're phenomenal. I mean, you know, great knife handling skills. So like I said, with the team, there were 32 teams. We started from scratch with the recipe, so it was like kicking it around. It was a big thing. Middle schoolers, right? What are we going to cook? Oh, you know, it's everything. They like pizza. Okay, so that's boring. That kind of thing. I wish I had a photograph to put up here, but anyway, what we ended up with. And so that took quite some time to get to where we're at, and then we just started little by little seasoning things, and so it took quite a while to get to the end stage. There are 5 teams that are selected. We were one of the 5, obviously, out of 32 in the entire state, and we're up against teams that have culinary arts programs. And a lot of these kids transition into technical programs for culinary arts. So here we are, just this group that gets together. And you know, again, they're middle schoolers. So you know, I told Charlie, I said, Charlie, they're middle schoolers. Charlie was a professor in college of economics. So I said, they're middle schoolers, way different. So, and I said, you sure you're on? And he said, yep, I'm in it. So he came every single time. So we have Natalie Chitwood. We have Lainey Finkelmeyer, we have Jaden Keeler, and he has a different hat. This is Flo Torres, he's our team leader. Flo keeps everything going, so he oversees the processes. So do you guys have anything you'd like to add?
No, not really.
Okay. And you are going to be the spokesman.
Oh, yeah, I was. I got bailed on that.
Okay. So anyway, here we are. We are going to start cooking again tomorrow night, 2 nights a week, and we're just going to work on the same recipe over and over and over and over and over. And it's now about timing because we have the taste. And we have to make 50 servings and taste test it on peers. So get feedback, and that's part of the competition as well. We have to submit those official ballots, I guess, right? Taste testing. So, and then off to state. Pardon? What we're making is what we ended up, I wish I had a picture of it because it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a stuffed cabbage roll. It's Golumkis, and it's a savory, and the sauce, they make the sauce from scratch. Everything is cut up, you know, there's nothing pre-packaged, and the meat is seasoned and things of that nature. And again, this is a trial and error on, you know, how does this taste? We don't want to get too much saltiness. But we also had to follow DPI dietary standards. So it could be served massively, potentially in a school cafeteria as a lunch item. So there were a lot of challenges. Anything that goes with the states, a lot of strings attached. So we had to meet all of those hurdles. So here we are. I mean, this is huge.
Yep. Our next recognition is our math team.
Oh, I see you in that picture.
I think we knew that.
Welcome, Math Team and Ms. Novin.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for having us tonight. So we have a very small representative of our gold medal winners because we had a very, very successful year. So Mr. McWilliams, Mr. Chambers, and I couldn't have been prouder of these guys. So at the middle school level, the last 2 years have been absolutely outstanding. This year, every single one of our students, with the exception of 2, got golds, and those 2 got silvers. So very, very nice performance there. At the high school level, at our SWAL math competition, which takes place every March, and all of the schools in the conference come together and they participate in 3 individual tests, and then they also take, at the high school level, a test as a team. And so in our geometry division, we had the top 2 scores tied for first place, so Brady Polsko, who's here with us tonight, and then Abby Shannon, who could not be. And then we also had a gold medal winner, Noah Stanton, and then took the overall team gold as well. In our advanced algebra division, Jacob Wettig was a medal winner with a bronze, and then they had an awesome comeback from behind as a team and tied for first place as well as an overall team. And then in our Division 4, which is pre-calculus and above, we had the overall gold winner, which was David Kelm, and then 2 bronze, Lizzie Mollers and Hawkins Schrieffer, and they were very, very close to that first place, I believe only missing by about 0.2 or so, but overall, absolutely outstanding. So very proud of our kids this year.
And I'm going to speak in for Mike Chambers. I'm Deb Soper, and Mike was unable to be here tonight, but both of us coached the middle school team, and there were 8 schools, and each participant worked individually, and 2 of the 8th graders, Nick DuBois and Lily Wong, along with 7th grader Will Straka, all tied for 5th place out of 80 participants. And Owen Stevenson and Morgan Vondra, West Burgett, Grant Bossard, and 7th grader Cameron Wigman also brought home gold. I think it's important to say that Darlington was the only other school that had the same number of gold medals as we did. And silver medals were 7th graders Rita Wilson, there she is back here, and Brayden Daly. So recognition too to the alternates, 8th grader Cody Pierce and 7th grader Ian Keys. And these guys did a fabulous job, and it's been 2 years in a row, so.
Our next recognition is Odyssey of Mind. Odyssey of the Mind was coached by Ms. Wilson. Would you like to share a little bit about your team and your experience?
Well, this is our 3rd year doing Odyssey of the Mind. It's been interesting every single year. When you think you know something, you were wrong. Mostly they're here because they won't give up and because there's a deadline and they got to think really creatively, really fast, and then duct tape it together and make it work several times. Quit smirking, Rita. There's lots of colors of duct tape. The way this works for team recruitment is you get one kid and then whatever siblings happen to be around, they get pulled into it like a vortex, and pretty soon you have a team. It was a Wilson vortex, but I'm sure they'll spread out and tell us to go away soon. So, this is Caleb. Caleb Worsel, and he puts up with Rita pretty well. This is one of my daughters. Emily Graber, our friend from Other Connections, who does a little bit of everything. Most of these kids do a little bit of everything. That's why it's so hard to get them in one place to form a team. There's Hope Wilson, Kira Schrank, and one of the people who got pulled into the vortex is Ella, and she's been doing this 3 years also, so she's the youngest veteran you'll ever meet.
Just notice the team took second at the state tournament. Their long-term solution was changing toxic waste into good, cheap coffee and generating free energy in the process. So, quite the project.
Great job.
Congratulations, Emily, good job. Congratulations.
Mr. Wayman, I'm verifying we're, any other groups out there? Okay, thank you. If there's anybody that needs seating, there's plenty of seats. As those are coming in to get seated, we have plenty of seats in the back and on the side, so please help yourself. We do have one final recognition tonight. Mr. Matt Lindsay is a father of 3 and a coach of many, and he has served this board as president for 2 years and has contributed much over his 2 terms of 6 years of service, and this is his last meeting as a member of the Board of Education. So I'd like to just thank Matt for his service. We have a tile that's put together to commemorate your service on the board, and wish you a very happy non-boardmanship. Congratulations.
Larry, you want to be in the photo with that?
Yeah, sure.
You had to do enough love with your president, right? So.
You get to join the ranks of Mike Mitchell and watching Dancing with the Stars on the
Works for me.
Congratulations, good luck. Thank you, sir. Yeah, thanks for everything you've done.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Fun serving with you.
So we will call a regular meeting to order. I will do the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Fasting,
Here.
Dolphin,
Here.
Hay, Kinch,
Here.
Lindsay,
Here.
Stefan,
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
Communications, any board communications received? Let's back up, approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the March minutes? A motion by Lisa, do we have a second? Second by Jeff, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Motion carried. Now we'll go to communications. Any board communications received? All right. Citizens communication?
We'll get the list. Does anyone who wants to speak sign up, everybody?
Okay. As usual, anybody that's on this list will be able to speak during the agenda portion. So, Becca, I will ask you, do you want to hold off until the agenda portion comes in?
That's fine, as long as I can talk then.
Sure, you bet.
Thanks.
Mrs. McGuire?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few words about the contract and the pending contract for teachers. I believe there are 4 or 5 staff members who are due to make a lane change from getting their master's degree. And I just wanted to state that all of us, I believe, are really in support of those people. They worked really hard to get their master's degree, and it's very disheartening, I guess, to see in the newspaper that it could possibly be something that is not afforded or not paid for. So I just came because I feel very strongly about that and in support of those young people who have done all the work with the intention that their salary would be compensated. So I'm just here in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Mike Mitchell for music.
I was called, I see that you might be thinking of cutting Mr. Nevers back to 75% in the music department. When I was on the school board, I fought as hard as I could for music. We had that particular subject come up years before on a 75% thing, and we got all 5 teachers back, including our music teacher, back to 100%. I know just before I left the school board, we were contemplating cutting the music department, but kept it at what it was. Back when we thought it was going to go to 75%, I tried to let people know that if you hire a person 75%, they're not going to be around long. Nobody's going to work for 75%. I don't think an administrator would work for 75%. I wouldn't put in carpet for 75% because I couldn't make it. And if that happens, that particular teacher or teacher would look for another job. We'll just fill it with another person. Well, you're going to get everybody at the bottom of the barrel because nobody's going to work for somewhere where it's 75%. We got a great music department here. I know the numbers might be down in the band portion of it, but the support of music in this town is big. On a personal note for me, my nephew Caleb has had a wonderful opportunity here in the music department with Mr. Nevers. Not only plays the organ at church, he's in 2 symphonies down in Dubuque and in Platteville. And I just found out tonight he was awarded the highest scholarship ever for music down at Platteville to go to school there. And that's because of the teachers here and most notably Mr. Nevers. There are so many lives that are touched by music. I would hope that you wouldn't cut music. Music is as important to some people as girls basketball is to some parents and players, and boys basketball and football. And to quote a line from Mr. Holland's opus that I just saw 3 nights ago, if we cut football, that would be the end of Western civilization. But I just wanted to point out the importance of music, and I would do anything I could to make sure that it would stay at 100%. I talked with Mr. Nevers. You're thinking of hiring another person, 25% to help with the vocal part. I don't see why you'd want to get someone in at 25% when there could be something worked out with the guy we got here at 100% to keep him here and to keep a good teacher here. In the times when school's going away from teaching kids how to write cursive and how to write, they're contemplating taking out algebra because of whatever reason. All of that I don't think is right. And music as well as math, I saw the math people get honored here tonight. We got a lot of honors that come from the music department, and I would hope and I would pray that we would keep Mr. Nevers here for the work he's done here and keep our music program and hope to build it back up to what it's going to be and what it should be. I'm just here in support of music because I was a big jock in school, but long after I couldn't dunk a basketball anymore or hit a golf ball 260 yards, I can still sing and I can still appreciate music, and that's because of guys like Hal Hokinson, maybe you remember him, Mr. Basting, and the people that taught music. So I'm just here to just reiterate the importance of music in everyone's lives. Mr. Nevers is going to be taking over the city band that's been here in Middle Point for over 30 years. And if you don't think it's touched many people in this town, come down and see all the young people and old people and the wonderful people that come to town on the 4th of July to listen to our music in this town. We're the only town in the state, I think, that has a city band that I'm aware of. And Mr. Nevers is going to take that over. I don't want to lose him because he goes to 75%. I think I did everything.
Matt Nevers.
I'm going to wait because I'm a little emotional after that.
Duly noted. Shelley Rose.
Okay, I have nothing prepared, I'm just winging it. I'm here in support of keeping Mr. Nevers 100%. Agree wholeheartedly with Mike. Both my boys were involved in band, and one of them, the older one, was more about sports, but music was huge for him because Mr. Nevers, he never wanted to quit. He always loved band. My younger son has had the opportunity to be a part of numerous state ensembles. I believe everyone he's been able to participate in received a star first. He's had wonderful music experiences, and it's a huge part of his high school career, and I think it would be horrible if you reduce Mr. Nevers, and like Mike said, I'm guessing he wouldn't stick around, and that would be a huge loss for our school. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Shelley. Ruth,
I'm gonna wait till the agenda item comes up.
and then Angie Hendrick.
I just wanted to share that I'm also here in support of music and Mr. Nevers. Music has been a huge part of my children's high school experience. My children don't do sports, they do music, they do art. They are those kids, and this school needs support of those children. I think that one thing I will share is that I think I actually spoke at the school board meeting when we cut funding for middle school band, and the argument was then that reduction of staff for middle school band wouldn't result in a reduction of numbers and participation, and what this proves tonight is that is exactly what it did. The number of kids that dropped in the 2 subsequent years after funding was cut are the result now in the 27 kids that will be active participants in band next year. The kids that are coming up through the middle school now that are getting the full support of Mr. Cooley and Mr. Nevers, and those numbers will swell again the year after next. So what we're doing right now is proposing a short-term solution to a long-term problem. I think that we should keep Mr. Nevers at 100%. We should bring in a quarter-time teacher to help support Mr. Cooley so that we don't lose 2 qualified teachers, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Anybody else? Okay. We'll keep on the agenda here. Administrative business services. Credit card statement of activity, bills payable. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Jeff, do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Matt. Discussion?
I got a question on what is page 28, I just want a clarification here. What's an EduClimber?
EduClimber is a data support tool. It collaborates and gathers data. It's like a data warehouse. So it's a web-based tool that we use. It draws in information from multiple sources, puts it in one place where we can then triangulate data and use that to inform decision making. The teachers can also use that to write their student learning objectives or goals for the students based on that data. And this is, the fee that you see there is a 3-year license, so that's a 3-year fee that you're seeing in front of you.
So that would be our own data, it's not?
Correct, it's our own data coming in that we're warehousing. So yes, it's our students' data that right now we have to go to each source individually to be able to get their STAR scores. We would go to one place to get their now Ford exam scores. We would go to a different place. ACT scores would be a 3rd place. This would bring it all into one location where then we can look at multiple pieces of data at the same time.
Did you have some other software that was doing some of those similar, collecting the SLO data that the teachers were working on?
The, currently it's the My Learning Plan, which is part of educator effectiveness, is where we currently collect student learning objectives, but it doesn't actually help write them. They're writing them from scratch and just typing into the educator effectiveness portal, if you would, what their student learning objective is. We then keep track of any progress made at semester and at the end of the year, and we enter, both teachers enter in their feedback halfway through the year and at the end of the year of how well they met that objective. That's also where evaluators, like the principals, can see that information and see the progress made. But it doesn't actually house the data inside of that tool. They have to go, again, externally out to the different tools like STAR, get those scores, pull them into the educator effectiveness area. So this would be a way that not only does it have the data readily available, but can help write the SLO right inside of that tool. A great demonstration if you'd like to see one sometime.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we will have a roll call.
Basting?
Abstain.
Dolphin?
Yes.
Hay?
Yes.
Kinch?
Abstain.
Lindsay?
Yes.
Stevenson?
Yes.
Stefas?
Yes. Personnel Services. Lori Heimsouth from Additive Contract as Gifted and Challenge Coordinator at the elementary school.
Lori has resigned effective Friday, April 15th. Upon approval of the board, we will post that position both internally and externally and try to fill that as soon as possible.
Do we have a motion to accept the resignation?
I'll make the motion, accept it.
Motion by Larry, go second. Second by Julie. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Just want to confirm, back to Administrative Business Services, do we do a consent agenda on items 1, 2, and 3?
That's the way I read it.
Okay.
Is that
Thank
okay
you.
with everybody? The budget amendment.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, items for information and discussion, budget development.
Just wanted to follow up with the board on the budget. Inside of your board packet are, again, salary recommendations that are in your packet. We'll be seeing those later in the agenda. We have all the budget requests for 16-17 were submitted to building principals, and we are waiting to allocate those distributions to the buildings once we know more about the outcome of some of the decisions tonight. Capital projects we have frozen at the current time. We're not doing anything with those until we have some long-term facility planning study due back to the board and following with the board's recommendations there as well. The staffing, the recommendations for any staffing changes were discussed with the Personnel Committee over the past week. The two that are before the board tonight is an instructional coach, interventionist support, and a grade 7th through 8th grade regular education teacher. That would be an additional 1.0 FTE. That's an item for action this evening, as well as music teacher allocations, an effort to increase participation, which is also under the action item. Once those pieces are discussed and solidified, we can take the next step in our budget development process and start to reallocate the remaining funds that are available.
Okay. PLC site visit follow-up.
There were a few members that took the opportunity to go out to the schools and visit the professional learning communities on site. I thought it'd be just an opportunity to quickly report out any of the takeaways, questions, concerns that you had. Ms. Hay was able to attend the elementary school, and Mr. Dolphin and Mr. Steffes attended the middle school, high school professional learning community opportunity. They were both a week apart over the past 2 weeks. So if there's anything you'd like to share just for the board awareness for those that weren't able to attend, it'd be a good time to share.
I found it to be very informative. The teachers were clearly working very hard. These are the Wednesday afternoons when the kids get out early. And I think people would be happy to know that there's a lot of really good work going on at the elementary school. It was very impressive how intense it was and how it clearly is the best thing for the students. And maintaining this, I think, would be important, because over time, it's only going to get stronger and better. So I thought it was wonderful, and I was sad that I couldn't go to middle school, high school, because I would be interested to see how it works up here.
I would echo the same thoughts for the middle high school. Larry?
Just the same, but I was going to see what's going on.
Okay. Thank you. Policy committee meeting follow-up?
And thank you to all the teachers that allowed me to go in there. I appreciate it.
The policy committee met. 2 members that chaired the policy committee are member Stevenson and member Hay. Any follow-up that you wanted to share with the board prior to our future meetings?
I think you can expect us to come back at the next meeting with a policy that will have a dollar limit for spending that has to be pre-approved by the board. So we have a draft policy. It has a lot of stuff in it that is extraneous. So I'm just going to winnow it down so that it's a leaner policy, and we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
All right. School safety?
I did share with the board a presentation that was given with the CISA 3 superintendents with regards to what's called the Guard Safe program. Is there anybody that has not seen that video or wasn't able to see the video? We could show it here with the board if you'd like. Otherwise, I don't want to take the 3 minutes, but it's a short video on a security measure that may have some merits here at Mineral Point.
I didn't see the video. I read the 45-page attachment that you had.
Okay.
I didn't know there was a 3-minute video.
I loaded up more information than was necessary. We will, let's do this short 3-minute video then, and let's see.
As a school resource officer for the last 6 years, my responsibilities lie in making sure that we have the safest possible environment for our schools. I've had to train our staff what to do in case of an active shooter, what to do in case of an armed intruder in your building. Until GuardSafe, there really has not been a viable alternative given for school district staff to be able to protect and defend their environment when faced with the unthinkable. Myself, as a school resource officer, I have 5 schools in my district. I can't be in 5 places at one time. Nationally, the average time is about 8 minutes for the police response. That's a lifetime between the time that the shooting starts and the time that the police arrive. Whenever one of these incidents happen, we have ready-made heroes that come out, our administrators, our school staff. They're the true first responders, and many times they're the heroes in these incidents.
They're already willing to go out there and put their lives on the line, but we can make it a lot easier for them to actually end that shooting before it gets even worse.
My name is Doug Frank, and I'm the founder of Intruder Defense Services. GuardSafe is basically a system of tools and training where we teach administrators in your building or in a building how to respond if someone comes in with a gun.
The GuardSafe unit has a modified paintball marker inside which fires small plastic balls that contain a very potent pepper powder. And it can be used to engage an active shooter or an armed intruder from a safe distance using non-lethal force.
It's got about 130 round capacity on the HPA cylinder. The launcher is equipped with a fully automatic trigger, which will fire 15 rounds per second. It fires frangible balls with a microfine powder. The powder is actually a PAVA powder. When it breaks, it creates a nice cloud. It gets into the upper respiratory system. It causes a lot of hacking and coughing.
We should be able to access a unit in 30 seconds to a minute, and within 3 minutes have that active shooter engaged, distracted, or incapacitated.
There's an immediate response by school personnel. They have the equipment, they can get to that shooter faster than our response time and try to neutralize that shooter till we can get in there and get to that shooter.
It creates an area of effect, so it's not necessary for me to actually hit the person. All I have to do is hit in the area of the person. And I can do that from up to 150 feet away at 15 rounds per second. So I can fill an area or a hallway, and I can deny access, or I can divert this person, and I can disable them without ever getting close to him. And any way that you can throw diversion in place, any way that you can distract them in some manner, in a non-lethal manner on top of it, you've bought time and possibly saved lives.
The appealing thing about the GuardSafe system is it allows school officials to do something other than barricade in the classroom, hide, and run from an intruder. It allows us to go out to a hallway and engage an enemy through the training that we receive so that hopefully we can save more kids' lives.
My 25 years of fire rescue experience tells me that the GuardSafe system is a perfect piece of equipment in the schools. I think it's the best alternative for you to take ownership of a tragedy until the professionals get on scene.
I think the impact of having Guardian in the school is peace of mind. Peace of mind for the parents, peace of mind for the teachers, peace of mind for the kids.
I introduced GuardSafe because I realized that our whole security system is vulnerable and leaves our children vulnerable. So it just made sense for me to create a system that gives the power back, the safety back to the people that need it the most.
So that was the short presentation, and there is the GuardSafe research, which Lisa was diligent to go through, as well as a CISA 3 price quote. Walking this by our police liaison, Bill Ottaway, he seemed to think it had merits. It's a different concept for approaching an active shooter in a building, and nobody had really thought about the idea of air compressed or CO2 based firearms being able to be used in schools, shooting a non-lethal bullet as a pepper spray or other that would incapacitate the potential intruder. This is up for the board if you want to pursue more information. It's an item for information only. There is a live presentation that is going to be scheduled April 14th, that's this week, Thursday at 3:45, down in the Potosi area. Depending on the number of responses across the CISA 3 area in southwest Wisconsin, will depend on the location. So if the board had interest, we could go and talk with the very people that you saw in the video and ask more questions specifically. If this is not something of interest, we can move on as well. So what is maybe your interest or discussion around this particular topic?
I'm going down to Thursday night. It's 3:15, wasn't it?
It could have changed since the original, that's possible.
Something they didn't mention in the video is that that gun, the guns would be locked. And maybe they did mention that, I didn't see it in the video, did they?
He
Showed where it
unlocked
was.
it, yeah.
Oh, okay. And there'd be a code and all this training that goes with it too.
Yeah, it'll be a full day training and then an annual recertification for those that are certified to use it.
And you do have to replace the projectile every 3 years.
Pardon, I'm
You
sorry?
have to replace them every 3 years.
My guess would be they need to be recharged or at some point restocked, yeah, replaced.
Now the air is just go down the 8-room charger.
Okay.
That's not CO2, it's just compressed air.
Bill Ottaway's only suggestion was to actually get a higher caliber paintball gun, if you would, so that it actually reaches further and has a bigger impact when it hits a chest to create more of a sting effect than maybe the caliber they were recommending. So we can ask if that's an option that would be recommended by current law enforcement. They suggest 2 in each building so that if the active shooter is between you and the box, that you have another alternative way to get to a box. So this building went upstairs, downstairs, or one in each elementary. You could probably piecemeal and buy this cheaper, but it doesn't come with the training. It doesn't come with the ability to buy the product right from the company or the manufacturer. The pepper spray balls are not just commercially available at a local store. So sounds like we have one board member that's interested in going down.
I plan on going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to go to
I would stay with the 345, yeah, like you said, it depends on what is coming, could be changed.
Bring this back for further discussion if the group feels it's worthy of talking more about it next meeting.
Okay. Items for action. Approval of middle school Chromebooks.
This item was tabled from our last meeting, the approval of the middle school Chromebooks. The first question was how many are actually needed and what would they be used for? We're currently using the Chromebooks at the middle school level. Mr. Chambers is using them for the Apex Learning Blended Learning Math Experience, and it pretty much uses up all of our available Chromebooks. There are other courses. Ms. Soper has expressed an interest in expanding some of the math curriculum and/or language arts curriculum to some of her classes. And as we start to use technology more and more in the classroom, we looked at all of the Chromebooks we had available through our carts, through our device systems that we have right now. And to fully equip the middle school, we need to purchase an additional 100 Chromebooks to give every student access to a Chromebook in the middle school. These are suggested to stay in the school district themselves. They wouldn't travel back and forth from home. There would be in a lockable cabinet that they would get either at the beginning of the day in their homeroom and have to return at the end of the day. And the current cost of a Chromebook is $250 each. A management license is $30 each. So the total investment would be $28,000. The district is recommending proceeding with the purchase of 100 Chromebooks for the middle school.
My recollection was not that we tabled it, but that we didn't approve it at the last meeting.
My recollection was different, but we can look back at the minutes. I don't know if that reflects it or not. But if it's
I'm
not
looking at the
approved.
minutes.
thought I made a motion.
Yeah, Jeff's motion.
No, to approve it.
Only,
Two carts of 30, and then we had talked about doing what you said and seeing to replace the ones that we needed to. I'm assuming you're not telling us 100.
Yeah. I had it as a lingering to-do is to bring back to the board how many Chromebooks would be recommended if we were to proceed, but maybe I misunderstood the board's desire. So in addition.
100 is less than 175.
Right.
So
We approved 60, right? 60. 2 carts of 60.
No.
2 carts of 30.
30.
60 total.
so you're seeking an additional 100?
Correct. That would give us a Chromebook for every student, grades 6 through 8.
What I remember is we talked about the Apex learning system after we approved.
Maybe that's where the
Chromebook,
conversation
and
is.
then did we decide to bring it back? I know there was discussion around Apex afterward.
I'm reading this article that says the original request of 175 got reduced to 60 and was approved.
2 carts. 2 carts of 30.
I remember the discussion of middle schoolers not all having Chromebooks.
Correct.
That's why I was surprised to see it on the agenda again, because I thought that we said no last month.
And honestly, I would prefer to see us put our money into our teachers than I would in more Chromebooks. And I still am at that position.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
So if we did this 100, we'd be back to fully one-on-one with the 6th through 8th grade.
Correct. Yep.
What's our maintenance run on that?
Currently, we run a 4-year replacement cycle. And as they break, the students repair them at their own cost if it's due to their own damage, if they're under a warranty, if they're otherwise broken.
All right. So current Chromebooks that we have outside of the 100 you're proposing to purchase, life cycle of those, are we close to having to replace some of those? So that this.
Not at the current time, because they are roughly a year to a year and a half old, and so we haven't really gone through a full cycle of the first group. So the seniors would be reused again next year. As they depart, we would hand those Chromebooks down.
To the freshmen, right? So
If
this would be a
if
whole
it were
different.
going to be middle school, because they weren't going home, we would put those down in the 8th grade and then use the brand new ones instead of for the 8th grade for the freshmen that would go for the 4 years back and forth at home, because they've already had 1 year of wear and tear at home.
Okay.
So these would be a little bit protected, and my hope is to get a little more life out of them by putting it at the 8th grade level. And they're also the newer of the 2 Chromebooks that was purchased. We purchased freshmen and sophomores, which was a version before this latest version. So the juniors and seniors are actually running the latest Chromebook software, if you would, which would make sense to try to push those down rather than the older ones that we will be recycling out.
You're only looking at 2.5 years out of it, 3.5?
We're doing it 4 years.
Looking at 4 years?
So it was not my intention to bring back something that's already been acted on, but I misunderstood the board's direction on this, so whatever your pleasure is the way to go.
I was just gonna say, it seemed like we had pretty good agreement for 60. So this would be an additional 40 Chromebooks.
No,
it's an additional.
So additional 100
Outside
above
of
the
the
60. Thank you.
And actually, I thought it was 60, and I thought you had said that you needed like 10 for each of the other carts to get
Yeah,
them
both,
fully.
to fill both carts, we needed, I think it was a total of 10. But I think you also have to consider too that the middle school lab, there's not gonna be any updates to the middle school lab or to the laptop cart. Okay, so we're gonna be also losing the middle school lab eventually here. Because those computers are very slow and not going to be updated.
What if some of the money that was already allocated for the smart boards, I mean, there was 35,000 allocated for smart boards. What if instead of, I think that was 10 smart boards, there was some money put into the middle school lab instead of the smart boards? Or some sort of reallocation of the sizable budget that we already approved at the last meeting for technology, rather than approving more money into technology.
The budget approved last meeting, sizable is maybe not accurate because it's the smallest technology budget we've had in 3 years. The replacement of the smart boards is already on a 6-year replacement cycle, so if we reallocate some of those dollars, we'll push that smart board replacement out to possibly 7, 8, 9 years down the road, which I think is getting a little bit lengthy for us.
You know, if a smart board is not fixed, you don't need to replace it necessarily.
It's not
Right.
The rate we're going, it'll be a fourth of these every year after we get to
The Chromebooks?
once we get to the turn of the fourth year.
Yeah.
And that'll run how much? We're gonna have how many of them?
Well, you have roughly students at 55 to classes of 60. You usually have a few extras for spares or other. Add 280 per, so you just have to do the math.
Not counting the 60 we're gonna get.
Correct.
So we're gonna be about 100 every year then, about roughly.
Yep.
No,
More like 50.
More like 50. Once you get our class.
How far are we going with these anyway?
I thought we were doing 280 and this would be 3 something, right?
I guess I wasn't following your question, because right now, roughly, we need 180 total at the middle school, classes of roughly 55. Would give us a few extras, so that would be 180 total for each kid to have an access to a Chromebook at any time during the day.
I was looking down the road, once we get to the replacement, how many are we gonna buy that year?
So you'd have that 55 times 280 or 60 times 280.
Not cost-wise, just how many? Not 280.
280 per unit times 60 units would be 16,800.
So you're saying that there's 60 units per year that will need to be replaced on the cycle? Is that what
Once
you're
we get
asking,
to that
That's
Lenny?
what I'm asking, yeah, it looks like more than 60 have to be replaced, but
Yeah, so that would be once we get out 4 years. So after this current freshman group becomes seniors, that would be the first group that we would replace. So we don't have to replace any next year or the year after. But the year after that is when we would start a replacement cycle, which is why you see many of the districts going forward with recurring referendums for technology, because they start to replace this technology on a cycle. And that's just all new expenditures that weren't there a decade or 2 ago, because it's a new way of infusing the classroom. So I'm not suggesting that specifically, but these are certainly new expenditures in a model that is limited in how it funds schools.
But I think your point is, it's not just a one-time expenditure, it's ongoing.
it's going every year, but how much per year, like that?
Right.
And in 4 years, it will probably cost more than 280 per unit. Maybe they come down a little bit, but 300 per unit per tech perhaps.
Under the confusion, should we do a little more research on this Apex learning program, and I was under the assumption that's why we were looking at more Chromebooks, and, but if we decided to only go with 60, I don't feel that we should have it on the agenda then tonight either. We should delay it, do more research, and if the board in the May meeting decides to bring it back, can we still bring it back in June then, and after more budget numbers are nailed down, see where we're at?
Sure.
It could be kind of on our want list. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I think that's a good move. I think there's a lot of other things that are maybe a little higher priority that we need to look at first.
So no action on middle school Chromebooks. Moving to 2016 and 17 compensation.
So does the additional functionality that we bought with Apex, is it not relevant necessarily if we don't have one-on-one devices for everyone? I mean, is it?
It will be limited.
Right.
You know, we certainly wouldn't be able to use its full capacities in the middle school. We would probably be limited to just one grade, maybe two, depending on, it wouldn't be everyday access either. You'd be sharing a cart between grade levels. And math uses it daily, so that takes up essentially one cart every day is just dedicated to 7th and 8th grade math, and then they would share the remaining carts and Chromebooks available.
How many cards do we have again, Vicki? 2. And we are adding 2, so we have 4.
So at any given time, you could service, for instance, science and math with 2 classes each. But you wouldn't be able to take care of the other 2 subject areas or the other grade level.
All right, any other questions on the Chromebooks? Unless there's a motion out there, we'll move on. Okay. Approval of 2016 and 17 compensation.
This item was tabled from our last meeting and provided as much information as I could that was requested for better understanding of the current scenario with individual contracts. If you'd like me to clarify anything for the board, I'm happy to do so.
So under your proposal, you have a cost to the district per year of $91,965. That is kind of complicated. That includes a salary increase of 1.5 and a CPI of 0.12.
Not necessarily a salary increase of 1.5. It would be a total average increase of 2.7%. That would be a CPI of 12/100ths of 1% increase to salaries. It would be next the steps for those staff members that are currently in the salary schedule model. Those that are off the schedule don't receive a step, they only receive CPI. And we do have a large majority of staff that are veteran and would not receive a step. And then it would apply lanes to 5 staff members, assuming that they receive their attainment in their education as far as a master's is concerned.
So the step increase is 68,000 altogether, 68,905.
With CPI, yes.
With the CPI.
Correct.
And the lane adjustment, if you were to do the lane adjustment, which was basically a promise that was made to some of the teachers when they're hired, that if they got their masters, they would be paid in a different lane, which is more money.
Some after they were hired, when they started the program, yes.
And so they, if you added up what they would get, it would be about $23,000.
That is correct, between
Exactly.
5 employees, yep.
And if the board wanted to do the lane adjustments, but not do the step, the 68,000 step, that is against an agreement that the teachers and the administration reached.
With
that the board approved.
Correct, yes.
And if we were to do both, we blow right past the budget forecast, increase of 1.5%.
Correct.
But if we did the lane adjustment and the CPI, we would be well within the 1.5.
Yeah, I believe that was 2.02. So if we, I'm sorry, lane, and I never considered lane and CPI, I didn't think that was a viable option, so I didn't do the math on that.
Well, that's my question. Why is that not a viable option?
Because the teachers and administrative team board-approved agreement was that you would fund steps before lanes, and therefore, if you were to go out of order, that would be breaking the agreement with the compensation team that was charged with coming up with the schedule.
Well, I wasn't on the board when that agreement was reached, so.
Well, it's a part of life. I've made investments on the basis that something was going to happen, didn't happen, much larger than that, and so has everybody else that's been in business. And the problem this year, the people that are on Social Security didn't get a raise, and if you have a little money in the bank, you don't get about less than 1% interest. If you even get close to that, you're doing pretty well. I think it's a little tough all over. But one thing people don't ever understand, it seems like, is when you take money from the taxpayers to give to someone else, it's fine for the one that gets it, but the ones that are paying it are getting a cut in their pay. And this is hardly ever realized.
So going back to Lisa's point, I did not consider that. To offer up a compromise of, the total package is 2.7, correct? To offer up a compromise, some number out there of fund 50% of the proposal, which would be 1.5 and change. We could not do that, pending an agreement we signed?
You could partially fund a step. That's what, 1.5. If you froze salaries at 1.5%, it wouldn't fully fund all steps for the teachers that are currently on the salary schedule. It would partially fund that. It would be like a half a step, if you would. It would land somewhere between that.
How many steps are there, 12 or?
Right up here, Mr. Dolphin, there's 12 in the bachelor's lane and 14 steps.
That's for the masters.
That is for the bachelor's and the master's. Bachelor's has 12.
How many teachers are still on steps automatically?
I'm going to give you my best guess of under half. So,
That when that runs out, is it done?
yeah, when they move off of step 12 in the bachelor lane or step 14 in the master lane, they no longer receive a step. They only receive CPI increase, consumer price index increase.
But all new teachers get the step raise.
Most new teachers are on the salary schedule, so yes, they would receive the step. In fact, I can't think of a teacher we've hired that was off of the salary schedule.
But a new one today would also be on it.
A new teacher coming in would be offered a position at the first level of effectiveness in the bachelor lane or master lane, depending on their education.
It seems to me that if we're gonna keep the agreement with the teachers and the administration, with the school board approved, that we can't do this every year. That we maybe have to go every other year where it goes step and lane. But if we're gonna make an adjustment for the lanes this year, then we can't, I don't see how we can do the steps too. I'd be in favor of giving the lane adjustments and the CPI increase. That seems reasonable and fiscally responsible. And then next year, plan to do the steps.
But according to the agreement, it was steps, and that was something that the administration and the teachers worked out together. So if you were gonna do, I see where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but wouldn't it be better to do the steps and the CPI and hold the lane?
I have a problem with that. If a promise was made to the teachers and they relied on it and they went and got their masters,
But the promise of the steps are there too.
there's a lot of promises, seems here, that in order to not break the promises, the only thing to do would be just give CPI.
That's the way to not break promises, is you don't make them to begin with. You'll find out that I make very, very, very few. Anybody that makes promises easily will easily break them.
The teachers that qualify for a lane adjustment, if they don't get it this year, that doesn't mean they're never gonna get it.
Correct.
Well, in which do you see the most improvement in the teacher's capability? By being here one more year, or by having a master's degree? Or is there any correlation?
There is correlation.
That's a logical way to look at it.
You know, perhaps if we say we'll just go with the CPI, and if the teachers and administrators want to get together between now and the next meeting and say, you know, we will go with lane and then step this year, and make a change to the agreement.
Do I understand this right? Now, the teachers and administrators were the ones who drew up these lanes?
The teachers and the administrators worked collectively, yes, it did.
Why wasn't the school board involved?
They were involved along the process, but they charged the teachers and administrative team with coming up with a different salary schedule.
Well, that's just for our district.
That's just
where the
for our
problem started.
I move that we give a CPI increase.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second on just the CPI increase, which is the 0.12. Okay. Further discussion?
Just to clarify, that's roughly $48 on a $40,000 salary.
You presented it to us in 3 different pockets, and you told us that we have to do it in that order. CPI, steps, and lane. The CPI is this little thing, and then the steps are this big thing. The lane is the thing that we all want to do. Maybe I can't speak for everyone. So yes, that is what the CPI is. That's what you presented us with.
Yes, I think, you know, a couple of pieces. Certainly this discussion in the upper right-hand box is if the district lacks resources to fully fund the model, it'll be paid out using the following priorities, P1 through P7. So the question is, does the district lack resources? And at this time, I believe that we can afford CPI steps and lanes and still provide a balanced budget. So I don't believe the district lacks resources. The 1.5% increase that was suggested was a budget projection that we used to try to anticipate a budget for next year back in October, November. It's not a hard and fast rule, it gave us a starting point.
But that budget projection has us going toward referendum at some point. And not everybody here is in agreement that we want to go toward referendum.
Understood.
I think the majority of the board and the community doesn't want a referendum. So I think we should stay under 1.5. I mean, salary, it's the biggest item in our budget.
So with your recommendation, Lisa, you're thinking just the CPI and that's it? You would not support a...
If the teachers and administrators want to come back next month and say, hey, you can go in a different order, you could go with lanes, I would be in favor of voting for lanes, the lane adjustments at the next meeting, and a portion of the steps perhaps. But I would start with this at this meeting.
Am I out of line if I didn't sign up?
No, go ahead, Andy.
I would just say we just talked about 15 minutes ago when we refused Chromebooks that we were going to put our money towards the biggest asset, which are the teachers, and now we're talking about $48. In a year where, you know, we have praised test scores, you know, they're obviously doing their job. And on the lane, those are 4 or 5 younger teachers who have the potential to be here a long time, with 4 of them that don't have immediate ties to the district, who are some of our better teachers based on what I've been informed. I would hate to lose them because we have the reputation that we make promises we don't fulfill to our employees. Thanks for letting me speak.
Overall package, the $91,000 package I cannot support. Overall package number that I could support, I would start at half of that. And
With the caveat that the teachers that deserve the lane adjustments get that, that's 23,000.
I would support funding that to, maybe not at 100% this year, but like we all said just a few minutes ago, what we do this year doesn't mean next year. Maybe we'll have a better budget forecast for some unforeseen reason. I would like to fund part of that lane change for 5 teachers, yes.
As a middle school principal, 60 Chromebooks, don't have a problem with it if the savings goes to what head Jeff has stated, if that helps.
Timeline basis, I know the end of April is important to teachers correctly. Explain it to us.
At the end of the April is the month where if you were going to give a non-renewal notice, it has to be given by April 29th. That is a preliminary notice, and then 15 days after, teachers would have a chance to appeal for a full non-renewal hearing with the board. You could offer the teachers a contract that is consistent with their current salary and always offer a better contract, but you can't remove FTE once April 29th has expired. State statute bars a school district from reducing FTE after that date because you haven't given due notice of a preliminary non-renewal. So you can always offer more later, but you can't offer less after the April 29th. You have to go through a process that it would be against state statutes.
Okay.
Did you have a second to Lisa's motion?
I believe we did later. Second, okay. Yes. So, I just want to ask for any other discussion.
I agree with Luke in that I think that we have the money at this point. You know, a year or two from now, things are going to change, and they're going to change big if we have to go to a referendum and it doesn't pass. But I still believe that the staff has definitely performed, and I think that promises were made that this board should keep. That's where I stand. And that's one of the reasons I made the motion last month too, that you hit the nail on the head. It's like, I didn't want to spend the money on the Chromebooks because I believe it should go to our staff. They're the ones that are directly involved in our kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think as always, I'm in support of what is most impactful for students and learning, and the salary, I believe, is a direct line to that. So, I mean, I'm in support of what the recommendation is of our, administrative team, if that's what's going to work and it works into it. I don't love the thought of referendum either, but I'm also a person who believes in education and the investment in it, so.
Overall package a year ago, Luke, do you remember?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know.
Salary increase, remember what that was it?
I'd be guessing it does.
Larry, is there any chance we could table this until a later portion of this meeting when we've made some decisions on other FTE additions? I mean, if there's not extra FTE any later, probably have an effect on my vote. If there is FTE added later, it's going to be, a different outcome in our budget.
So I would
Is there a
support
way to
it.
push that? Would anybody else mind pushing that back until
I
we
don't
make a
know,
decision
I
on other
withdraw
areas?
the motion.
Okay. So we'll push this farther down the agenda, and no motions and no seconds remain.
Thank you.
They were, but they were retracted. All right. Non-exempt staff without individual contracts. Shall we do the same thing there?
Be good with me. It's okay with you guys.
Okay. Same time. Moving on to number 3, 2016-17 grade 7 large class size related recommendations. We did have one member of the audience want to speak. Becca?
I just wanted to touch base on this, and Matt, I know you brought up a point about postponing it because wages are important. I work in HR at Cummins, and I know the importance of the value of good work ethics and what they bring to it. But I was personally excited to see this because I thought that it was going to give us an opportunity to keep the 3 in sixth grade, as well as add that student that could, or that teacher, excuse me, that could benefit the whole K through 12. So it was promising to see that the whatever committee had recommended that, and the thought into the smaller class sizes that's been talked about for the last, this is a 3rd year. All those same facts are still remembered.
Thanks, Becca.
Does the personnel committee maybe want to start with where they left off?
So we heard the recommendations of the administration last week, and their recommendation was to increase the FTE for a teacher in the middle school in core subjects, and then utilizing the additional support as a instructional coach. And then the vision was that after a couple of years, the teacher would either support full-time and access or whatever it's, I'm sorry, the RTI time, the tier 3 supports, district-wide or K-12 wide. And, excuse me, it's instructional coaching pre-K-12. And the thought behind that is that we sort of are missing that tier 3 support. We have tier 1 and 2 support in place, but nothing really to help the kids at that additional level. I think the recommendation of the board, or it was a lengthy discussion from the personnel committee. The discussion revolved around that we've been continuing to add every year, and we always talk about that it's a possible interim position or temporary position, but yet it then every year becomes a permanent position, and then it's just not sustainable for where we're at. So that was kind of where we left it. Basically was if there is the recommendation of one full-time teacher, that it would be a temporary position, or it would be kind of set up that way. The other recommendations by the administration that were not necessarily, obviously their first recommendation was to, and you'll see it on here, but to reallocate existing staff to cover the large group that's moving up through the middle school right now. And there's various ways that they feel like they could do that. Not ideal. It doesn't cover some of the instructional, the intervention kind of pieces that the full-time FTE would support. And actually it, has kind of a trickle down, meaning there a lot of the tier 2 supports that are currently in place would be then affected as well. So, and then a third recommendation was to actually with a change in location for the 5th grade to come up to the middle school and then do more sort of team, collaboration between the middle school teachers to try and make that work. So that's sort of where we left it. Did I miss anything for Laddie and Matt? You were there?
So you guys would still recommend bringing the 5th grade up?
That was the very bottom, last sort of recommendation.
I mean, you discussed it, but you did not, you're not recommending that?
There was really no official recommendation out of that person.
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel like we were presented, similar to what Lisa was talking about the salaries.
Right.
I feel like we're presented with 3 really uncomfortable options, and we have to just figure out which one is going to fit the best. Because I love the idea of an additional teacher, I've said this before, I said in that meeting, and I think that tier 3 support and instructional coaching support is really important. But I also know that we, for years, have been saying since we added that certain teacher to go with that bigger class, that we would have to evaluate whether it was needed and how long are we gonna do that. And I think now we're getting into that budget scenario where it's a little bit trickier.
Unless my memory fails me, every year we've added a teacher, but we've never taken that teacher back off, have we?
Yeah, that's what I just was saying.
Well, that's what I thought I was understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the 7th grade is gonna be a lot larger next year, then the 6th grade is going to be a lot smaller, right? So you're gonna have the same number of students. I don't see where there's all the whatever about it. I mean, it's, the extra ones that are in the 6th grade are gonna be in the 7th grade, and your 6th grade is gonna be smaller.
I think your number on the 7th should be 61.
The third teacher can't come up, I don't think.
Yeah. So this would be next year's enrollment as we know it right now. And obviously, we're dealing with this scenario right here, our 7th graders.
In a typical 7th grade class structure changes quite a bit. I feel we do not need to add a full-time employee to the 7th grade. The 7th graders that I would like to get some help for are, as we've seen in one of these explanations here, math is at 45% and 66% proficient in English language arts. I would like to address that problem, but to throw another teacher at the 7th grade just because 30.5 is, that's not even a true number when it comes to 7th grade because when kids are out and about in different directions, aren't there? There's certainly more than 2 7th grade teachers combined.
We've got some staff here that can speak to that specifically, but you have essentially in 7th grade 2 teachers that teach each of the 4 core subjects. And they teach both 7th and 8th grade. So those are 4 of the core subjects that they're teaching every day. So let's just take, for instance, social studies is Brett McGraw. Brett teaches 2 sections of 7th grade and 2 sections of 8th grade, as well as a section of reading. Because we don't have enough language arts teachers to cover all the reading sections, they're already teaching language arts. And we could...
How we do it is, for instance, let's say 7th grade is scheduled for science and math, and 8th grade will be scheduled for English language arts and social studies. So no matter what, you're having 2 classes of 7th grade. And 2 classes of 8th grade. So you're not,
Take place during
no, that's in the afternoon.
classes?
No.
Any-
Our academic periods are 2nd through 5th hour. You will average, if you go with the 2 7th grade, you're gonna average 30 in a class for each academic course.
How does adding 1 full-time person fix that problem, given how the classes are structured?
Because we will be able to get them into the English language arts and math, the 2 areas of high need, because we'll have a classroom set up for that extra teacher, so they'll be able to take them for English language arts and math and ease those class sizes.
And that's a class, Larry, that's only like 45%?
Yes.
Because remember, then their other responsibility would be additional supports, because, you know, we need to talk about RTI at the end of the day. You know, you're gonna have 60 kids that are gonna have to be in RTI, how many of them are gonna be intervention for math, and how many of them are gonna be intervention for reading? Are you gonna try to have 25 kids in a math intervention and a reading intervention? It's not gonna work. Maximum, you want 12 to 15 in an intervention. So those kids get the help that they need.
Do we have that many intervention classes?
At the end of the day, you'll have a math and a reading intervention
Right,
for
but I mean,
kids.
you have that many?
Do you see the percentage that they are in math and in reading? Some of those kids need additional supports.
Apparently, the third teacher didn't help them much at all then, when they was in the sixth grade.
Well, you gotta, I think two things, you gotta look at where they've come from and where they are now. But again, a key component to this is there is a group that is less than 50% proficient in math. And it's because they're functioning at a foundational level that's below their grade level. So when we put kids in interventions in groups of 12 to 15 to reteach the lesson from that day, if they can't do simple arithmetic or fractions, no matter how many times you reteach that lesson, they're still struggling. And we have nobody available in the day because they're teaching all day long, so there's nobody available to pull them out and work with those specific skills that they're deficient in. So that's the other part of that part-time position. Half of it is to cover the core classes in that third group, that bubble, going through 7th grade and next year 8th grade. The other half of that is to pull those kids out and work with them one-on-one on getting them caught up to grade level so they can do the teaching and the reteaching lessons that are being offered. The other part is there was 25 teachers that were working with an instructional coach, and I shared with the board what instructional coaches are. Those supports were pulled out 2 years ago because there wasn't a funding source. Those 25 teachers had very positive reviews in an exit survey when those supports were pulled. It's a non-evaluative way for them to get some additional classroom help, and we would offer that back up as part of this position. So the vision for the entire district to grow, if we want to continue this trend of growth in scores, is to add instructional coaching. Baraboo has roughly, I know it's a little bit bigger district, but I think they have 12 instructional coaches in their district. We have none. Tier 3 supports, we have none. We have 0 supports, and I've talked to teams from grade 3 to grade 7 that says, when are we going to get supports to help kids one-on-one that are struggling in the reteaching area? They're below grade level in reading, and we don't have anybody to reteach them some of the stuff that they missed in years gone by. That coupled with taking care of this bubble for 2 years, I think certainly warrants it in the short term, and it is a short-term fix. And I think that it will sell itself on a long-term solution that we just can't part without. But in 2 years, after the bubble is through to the high school and it does dissipate a little bit, if we financially can't afford it, then that position could fold just as easily as it could turn into a full-time.
Well, maybe it's time to quit moving children ahead from class to class when they haven't learned the class that they're in.
Retention has been shown through studies to be one of the most detrimental things you can do to a kid, is to hold them back.
I know, that's an opinion of the
Actually, it's a
people in
research
the
fact, so I can share that.
educational field, but it's not shared by everyone.
The single worst thing you can do is retain a kid. It's the single worst thing you can do. It just only widens the gap between them and their peers.
Well, it doesn't widen the gap if you're in 7th grade and you can't do fractions yet. My 2 boys understood fractions before they ever went to kindergarten.
We would love to reteach the kids fractions. We just don't have any more supports in the school. We're working with the staff that we have.
Any other thoughts from the board? I've got a recommendation of my own. And this was discussed at the personnel committee, was I do feel, if you put the numbers back up there, Luke, of the class sizes, I do feel 3 teachers for the 6th grade is a little much. And the 8th grade, I think, is in pretty good shape, looking at that number. We share a teacher between 6th and 7th, I guess, somehow, some way.
Well, if you kept them in the same rooms all the time like you did before in the other schools.
And I don't know what the right answer is, but
You could have split classes,
I
but
don't
you can't
see,
do that.
I don't see the value of having 3 teachers in the 6th grade for this upcoming year.
And I think, I'm just restating what we heard of this, the personnel, or the personnel committee I believe that the recommendation for that was just on the transition time, how it is on between the 5th grade and 6th grade transition. So just to answer why
There was,
that was
yes.
that recommendation, was that it is a, tricky time.
Because we hired the first teacher in the 5th grade, don't we, for that group of kids?
I think we hired someone for 2nd or 3rd grade, right? I mean, we brought someone in that position a long time ago.
Started in 3rd
At
grade.
3rd grade, I think,
Yeah.
For the current 6th grade.
for the current 6th grade, correct?
So we've been adding a teacher
Every year.
and in the last 2 years, we backfilled another teacher. We left that teacher in that current, so we left the teacher in the current 5th grade. Otherwise, it's been always two teachers in the 5th grade.
And in the 6th. Last year there was, last year there was 3, but before that, there were just 2 teachers in the 6th grade. So for the 12th graders, 11th, the 10th, the 9th, going back, there were just 2 6th
Yeah, I
graders.
understand what you're saying.
Right.
Now, that was also before we implemented RTI and the extra supports, when you're looking at those upper grade levels. It was never the right thing to do to have 3 teachers, or 2 teachers at the 6th grade level. And when you look at the 11th and 12th grade and those class sizes, now we've implemented access and RTI, and you're looking at going with 2 teachers to try to split up 52 kids. Because at the 7th grade level, if you move the 6th grade teacher up, you're not gonna be able to use that teacher for the 6th grade RTI, because there's gonna be too many students at the 7th grade level. Things have changed in education since you're looking at those numbers for grade 11 and 12. And the struggling students that we have in that 7th grade group too, we haven't even begun to talk about the behavior issues. And you're talking about putting 30 kids in a class.
Now I'm gonna start crying, but I don't mean to. Maybe I do get some. Anyway, what I'm thinking is these kids that we have in this class there are so many that need the help. And it's been very beneficial with the 3. Next year, and as Vicki just said, education has changed, and if any of you have been following, rules for special ed have also changed. Those kids that have special needs. It's not like they're being pulled out. It's not like I am able to get the assistance that I need to work with those kids. And then you're gonna put 26 kids in a room that there are some with special needs, there are some that have emotional and behavioral issues, and you still want the numbers for the test to be up where they're at. I don't see that happening. And for this group of 6th graders, I love the kids dearly, but there are issues. And to put, how many, 30 in a classroom? And try to maintain?
There's going to be more discipline happening in those classrooms of 30 kids than there will be teaching. If you put them into classes of 2, there's behavioral problems, there's emotional problems, there's academic problems, it's a whole gamut of problems. I've been doing this a long time, and I haven't seen this many different combinations of students as I have this year. And it's, with 3 of us, even though it doesn't seem like we've been doing our job, for 3 of us, we've been working our tails off, and it's been a struggle with 3 of us in that class, and you put them in 2, and
This 6th grade team has one prep a day in all the classes that they're prepping for, 1 prep. and then you're gonna go down to 2 teachers.
Well, how did we get by with 2 a year ago?
There were 44 students at that time.
That's the 8th grade.
Yes.
Okay,
That's next year's
This is
numbers.
next year's.
right, I understand that.
So they're referring to the 7th grade.
So, this year's 5th graders would be 52, 4th graders would be 51, 6th graders is the 61. So, let's see. Now, we had 43 the year before in
Right.
6th grade. Well, I think the whole thing is flawed because of just what Luke stated, that you can't do that. That's just the present state of mind, and I don't think it's working, and someday it will change, hopefully.
Well, can I ask what you think will change from the present state of mind? What do you think
Passing
is,
people that haven't learned what
Oh,
they're in
okay.
that grade instead of waiting until they learn it to advance them.
That's the change with the special needs now. They've got to have 3 interventions before a child
I
can
know it
be.
changed a lot, but if you
Right,
pass them,
but
they
by
don't
that
know the
time, they're in
material.
3rd grade. And by 3rd grade, it's been researched also that if a child hasn't learned what they should by 3rd grade to be caught up, they're not going to be caught up with their peers.
So the kids in 6th grade with the behavioral issues, I feel even if you put them in a class, are they still going to get the help they need unless they're in a specialized class of the sort with a specialized?
That's where your supports come in, Larry. They have to go through the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 before we can set up the supports. And Mr. Francois can explain that a little bit more, but it's a whole process now because special ed has changed.
Well, of that class, how many kids are we talking, percent-wise?
I would be able to give you that percentage-wise. But, you
So
know,
it must be a good percent.
I can tell you that I've had to deal with 6th graders on a daily basis in my office for behavior issues.
Now, but we need to get the federal government out of the school system, that's the problem.
Is it possible to share a 6th and 7th grade teacher?
there's only one teacher currently in 6th grade that's certified to teach 7th grade. That teacher has expressed no willingness to move up. That would be a burden and would create a real hardship in her personal family right now. So that limits our ability to have 6th grade teachers move up to 7th grade.
But just overall, is it possible for a 6th and 7th grade to share teachers? I always assume 5th and 6th share, 7th and 8th share.
It is not possible with our current staffing in 6th grade to share 7th grade. No. The certifications are K6, but doesn't allow for a 7th grade sharing.
It's a no-win situation. If we don't fund the steps, we have staff angry at us. If we don't have an additional FTE, we're leaving people short-handed. If we don't fund music, we're taking away from their educational experience. And if we do all the above, the taxpayers are mad because we're in referendum. I mean,
Grandma and grandpa can't buy groceries, they go hungry.
it's a no-win situation all the way around. And so I guess as a board, you have to just decide what is the lesser of all evils and vote that way. You're gonna, no matter what we do, so there's gonna be people unhappy.
Well, to set the stage, I guess I would entertain a motion to either approve or not approve the additional 7th grade slash whatever teacher, one FTE teacher. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll start. I'll make the motion to approve increase one FTE teacher in 4 subjects.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion to increase by 1 FTE for the 7th grade. And a second?
Before we vote on that, is where in the packet, I thought I seen something online of what you're projecting for next year's budget. Figures, didn't you give that to us?
Page 82 starts it. I don't think I put enrollment in there, but I did send it as in a different email.
I remember reading something.
Yeah, I think it came as just an email from me to the school board. I don't believe, let me just see if that's loaded up in there. No, I'm sorry.
I mean, whatever we decide to do, we're going to be speeding up the referendum. Basically. And then the public will let us know what they want to do.
Well, I get, they hear it all the time. They're tired of us hiring more and more people all the time. That's the main complaint that I get. But that's just in my social circles.
I get that a lot. I really do with, staff there most of the time, it's there, but
Well, it's a perception too. I mean, if you talk to somebody who works 8 hours and they had to work 10, it was terrible. You talk to somebody who works 12 hours routinely and they have to work 10, it's an easy day. You know, it's what you've been doing. If you have to do more, it's a complication. If you do less, that's fine. I mean, it's just the way it works. It's human nature.
the other referendum, we passed 1.1 million. Do you get that every year yet?
Yes.
And that's not enough to run your school, is it?
That was what was needed in 2011 to run the school as it was at that time. So obviously things are more expensive in 2016 than they were in 2011, just looking at salary and insurance alone. Coupled with new things like technology that at that time when we arrived in 2011, we were bare bones skeleton of technology. We weren't pushing out the way we are now.
To answer Jeff's question there, the budget with this position and with the salary increase and the step changes and the lane changes, we are short $27,000, correct?
That was the anticipation at the time that we did the projected budget in October, November of 2015. In this current model, depending on some of the decisions that are made today, I believe that we can sustain that and stay at that $27,000 use of fund balance or less. I don't believe that this decision would put us over that projected or anticipated projection from last fall.
And that did include this position?
That did not yet include this position because that hadn't been board approved.
But that's included in your projection of 27,000?
Correct.
Of fund balance, okay.
And that assumes the step increase.
That assumes the step increase.
And lane.
It did not
Not
assume the
the
lane,
5.
but I would go back and say again, I believe that we can add the 1.0 FTE and the lanes and still stay within the $27,000 deficit we projected or less. And I'd like to optimistically say we can do a balanced budget and not have to go into fund balance, but reserve the right to have that as, you know, kind of some flexibility that we have been talking about from day one and see if we can make this thing come together. But a lot of this is in flux until some of these bigger decisions are made.
Would this be, you're projecting a $60,000 employee?
Yes. That would be the rough estimate for a budget for salary and benefits of a full-time employee. I would suggest that the board, obviously every year annually, you can review all positions and make recommendations and act upon any action you want to take. I would recommend looking at this position year by year for 2 years and then putting it as a conscious decision to have a discussion about whether that position continues after the current bubble of 60 kids goes through the 8th grade. We know enrollment changes, it grows, it diminishes. We may next year revisit this if this numbers were to significantly reduce in any one class, and we would shuffle staff or so forth. But I don't necessarily suggest that you have to think of this as long-term. And the other part that comes into this is the next biannual budget. And optimistic or pessimistic about what that could be, it will be another biannual budget. And rural school funding seems to be at the forefront of some people's minds, and maybe there's some relief there as well. The hold harmless agreement is an example of something that we had not foreseen 4 years ago, but has been a significant windfall for us in the last 2 years. If something would have come out of the books like that, it could solve and push out some of our questions about long-term financial sustainability from year to year.
Well, the main problem is we're running our building at half capacity.
The budget jumps about 10% a year.
Actually, our expenditures overall are down next year. We have less expenditures,
Including salary.
including salary.
Where the 1.1 million go then?
It still goes right to where it's always gone, paying all those increases over time. Remember, the 1.1 was to fill a structural deficit in 2011.
Right.
So that just brought us back up to zero. So that money every year is just to keep us at zero at 2011 rates.
It's on your tax bill every year when you get it.
Any other discussion? So a motion to approve the hire of another employee?
I just have a comment. I am a little concerned, Luke, that if, and I'm in favor of this position, but it's like, all we keep doing is adding, and you were projecting a $40,000 deficit next year, and if we add all this, you're talking $92,000 for the staff salaries, and now another position is like, that's $150,000. How is it that we're not going to be $200,000 in the hole next year instead of 40?
Yeah, our technology budget has been reduced, and our insurance came in much more favorable than what we expected, for 3.9% instead of 6%.
So that was after you gave us the
After we did that.
40,000. Okay,
Recently
gotcha.
learned that dental and property insurance, liability insurance are going to come in at 0% increases. So those things have made it possible in the short term, but as we know, those could change next year, and there could be increases that makes this less volatile.
All right, we will have a roll call.
What are we voting on now?
To increase by 1 FTE in the 7th grade.
Increase in teacher?
Correct. Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Basting,
Yes.
Dolphin,
No.
Hay,
Yes.
Kinch,
No.
Lindsay,
No.
Stefas.
No.
That leaves two options that we were not recommending as an administrative team. And Larry, your recommendation has been noted.
Why don't you hire a 7th grade teacher and lay off the 6th grade teacher? And you'd be in the exact same position you were last year.
Is that a question or a suggestion?
No, I said, why don't you?
I'd like to protect the staff that has given longevity to our district, and all 3 teachers at the 6th grade have given us many years of service, and I'd like to honor that before I would just reduce at the 6th grade level.
Well, somebody was added last year, weren't they, or the year before? We've added a teacher every year for that
That
class.
teacher moved from special education over to 6th grade as a regular ed teacher, so not an add. Obviously, we replaced the special education teacher, which he vacated, a vacancy in special education. But that teacher has also been with us in the district for many years.
I truly believe we can help our 7th graders by, if the board doesn't want to go there, by paring down the 6th grade level and adding to the 7th, there will have to be some type of a job sharing going on between the 6th and 7th grade.
So is that a recommendation? I mean, just a thought, or are you making, were you making a motion to make that? Because was that the recommendation you said earlier?
I would make a motion to that effect.
Yes.
You might just
I-
allow the administrative team.
I think you might want to allow the administrative team, if we can do the alternative not recommended, I want to keep my 6th grade staff. I think that's going to be the most benefit, and we'll fill, or we'll have 30 kids in class. We'll make it work. If our scores go down, our scores go down. We'll do the best we can. And as a middle school principal, I do not recommend taking the 6th grade and moving it to the 7th grade.
Well, if they didn't change classrooms and one teacher taught all the subjects, it'd be simple. You could just allocate some of the 7th grade to the 8th grade and have a split class. But that's unfeasible under the way we operate.
And just reiterate for the board, the bulleted pieces are things that would happen if we reallocated the existing staff. Can it work and does it fill the schedule? Yes. But all of the supports that we have built up would be removed. Structured study hall, lunch bunch, technology coaching. And what it's replaced with is less supports, not more. What we're actually asking is to have all these supports in place and a tier 3 support to handle additional support. So when you have kids that are struggling, you put more resources toward them, not less resources. If you want to get better results, you have more supports in place, not less supports. So not only are we not getting that tier 3 support, we're no longer having some of the tier 2 supports that we built to maintain that got us to this point. So again, caution the board, we're on an upward trend in academics. And if you want to continue to trend upward, you shouldn't break apart the model that got us there, you should invest more in it.
On this recommendations for improved student learning, note school accountability report cards are impacted more by moving students from below basic to proficient than from basic to advanced. That kind of bothers me because that looks like we're not trying to get anyone that's above average, perhaps up to their total capabilities.
The point that was being made there was around the tier 3 supports that we're currently not supporting. You actually receive more recognition by the state for moving a student that is below basic or basic to proficient than you do for moving a basic student to proficient or advanced.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about how part of public instruction thinks about it. I'm concerned about what happens to the student here in the school. And if they're basic and could go to advanced, then that's what should happen. Because if it doesn't make the report card look as good, I'm not concerned about the report card. I'm concerned about everybody getting an education to the best of their capability.
And I also am concerned with all students, and we've removed opportunities for those that are below basic. Basically, we have removed any supports that they might get in this particular model.
And that's only if we don't move someone from 6th grade to 7th grade, correct?
If we're looking at the model that's here,
Yeah.
yeah. If you try to move somebody up from 6th grade to 7th grade, you're still removing tier 2 supports in order to make that happen. And larger class sizes.
What about hiring a .5 for the 7th grade, somebody who would focus on the English and the math?
That is certainly a possibility, which is exactly what we are asking for, is .5 to support the extra classes and interventions, but it still doesn't give you the instructional coaching, and it still doesn't give you the tier 3 supports, which is, in my mind, the next piece to taking this to the next level.
That would be a full-time FTE.
That would be the other half-time to make it full-time.
Right, but that was just voted down, so.
Yeah, so that's not an option at this point.
last year when we were presented with hiring another teacher because that class was moving to 6th grade. We added a third section of 6th graders. The conversation I remember around the table is that that teacher would continue to move with that class through until they were done with 8th grade, so.
I think that was also a conversation at the 5th grade level.
And it was.
I understand your point that you'd like to have all these things, but like I said, there's some grandpas and grandmas out there that have a little problem buying their groceries sometimes.
I can understand your concern, Vicki, about leaving your 6th grade team intact. But sitting at this table, I would see it as irresponsible of a board to leave three teachers in a 6th grade with 52 and roll 7th grade through with whatever, I guess 2 teachers equivalent, I guess, at 31 kids per class.
Not if we use this. We have a schedule, we can make out a schedule where it wouldn't have to be 30.
It's this alternative. It just gets rid of those.
Sure.
Using staff we already have.
Well, to this alternative, I don't, do any of the other board members think we even need action on that? I mean, that's just up to the administrator.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the people that, knowing that we're not
Sure.
gonna have an FTE, let's let them come up with the best solution possible, I guess, given what we've given versus us trying to decide.
Okay. We will then move on to, is it music next? Music staff and recommendations.
Just confirming that no action taken.
No action taken on the alternative.
Okay.
That was voted down, wasn't it?
Yeah, the FT was voted down.
The first recommendation was the right.
Oh, you're talking this one?
Yes.
First motion was,
Oh, sure. So we're on to music staff and recommendations. Matt, you wanna? Yeah. You signed up here, you bet.
I haven't exactly seen the slides coming up, so I think I'm speaking to what's being shown. Good evening. On the agenda this evening, you'll be discussing the staffing in the music department for 2016-2017 school year. I'm now in my 13th year of teaching, 11 of which have been in Mineral Point. I've taught elementary and middle school bands for 3 years and high school bands for 13 years. Through experience, I know that part-time music staff do not work. I have seen what happens to programs with part-time staff, and I want to let you know that I'm not in favor of adding a 35% part-time person, vocal music instructor. I feel that we are able to cover all positions adequately using our current staff as we have for the past 2 years. Ideally, we should have 4 full-time staff members that we did for many years before we lost a full-time position 5 years ago. But if you want the music program to grow properly, that's what we need. I believe adding a 35% vocal instructor will actually be detrimental to the music program. By adding a part-time vocal position, we are creating a revolving door. The instructor will always be looking for a full-time job, and the threat of losing them at any time is real. I see red flags to possible candidates who would accept a part-time position. Can they not get a full-time position anywhere else? Is there some reason other schools have passed on hiring them? The type of staff member that we are able to hire will not be adequate to Mineral Point standards. We saw that happen firsthand 2 years ago when we had a 50% middle school band position. Due to this 50% position, we lost many of our middle school band students, as well as our parent support, causing very small middle school band numbers. Now those incredibly small middle school band numbers have moved into the high school band program, causing a hopefully temporary problem on the instrumental side. We can't afford to start a revolving door in the music program. Revolving doors do not create stability, and students and parents require stability of their teachers, especially the music teachers. Music is a classroom where your complete emotions are exposed, and it takes a long time to develop trust between student and teacher. That trust gained from a music teacher can actually pull the emotion out of the child and convey it to making music. That is when you build strong programs. Trust is the key. As we have seen before, part-time employment does not help build trust. If you cannot build stability, you cannot build distrust, and you cannot have a successful music program. Please do not change our music staff of 3 full-time teachers to 2 full-time and 2 part-time teachers. I do not believe our music program could withstand it. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Ruth Schreiber.
I promise I didn't look at this script, but there are a lot of similarities. As you saw this evening when the board meeting started, how many students walked through that door and we were proud of our pointers? Was anybody counting? Our music program is part of our Pointer pride. And if you're trying to ignore it, did you see him play at the Cole Center last year? Did you see him play at the Rush Center this year? They're part of our school and they're part of our Pointer pride. I can't imagine sitting in your seats. The decisions that you have to make on behalf of our school, on behalf of our students, on behalf of our community, it's overwhelming to me, and I applaud you and I acknowledge the difficult decisions you have to make. As you consider staffing for 2016-2017, we're asking you to maintain our 3 music staff in full-time positions. We know that with our small class sizes, it's tough to maintain students in our band and choir because other classes can often be scheduled at the same time. We also know that it's easy for students to drop band or choir if we have that revolving door that Mr. Nevers talked about of music teachers. Look at all of the groups that were recognized this evening. What did they have in common? Talented students who are motivated, challenged, inspired, and taught by talented teachers. Long-term teachers establish those relationships with our students, and they provide opportunities for them all to excel. Mr. Nevers is already doing that. Mr. Cooley is growing into that role quickly. Reducing one of our music teachers has the potential to erode our entire music department and impact our students, our school, and our community. Please make this decision carefully and keep our current students and our future students in mind.
I think that's it for the list. Give the board a rundown of what you're thinking.
I can pick up because there was some additional information that has been put together since the Personnel Committee met. First of all, the goal of the administrative team and recommendations was to never reduce the music program in FTE overall. And I think it's important for the board to recognize that every proposal that we have currently is with 3.0 FTE, and every proposal that we propose continue to have 3.0 FTE in music. So part of that did suggest a reduction in one teacher's potential music FTE, and as we noted in our current reality, Mr. Nevers is currently slated to teach 33 kids in next year's course load. We thought one full-time FTE for 33 kids wasn't warranted, and that we should put FTE where our kids and our needs are. And one of our needs was Mr. Cooley, who currently has an overload, teaching 6th through 8th grade band, 5th through 8th grade band potentially next year, 6th through 12 choir, and general music. And Mr. Nevers did not have the certification to teach choir nor general music, so we really had to come up with a solution to reduce the overload and try to address the FTE where it's needed most. Our first recommendation was originally with the Personnel Committee to add a new teacher at 0.25 FTE that would work with the choir program, grades 6 through 12, that would reduce some of Mr. Cooley's workload and therefore make a more balanced schedule. and that would reduce Mr. Nevers potentially to 0.75 FTE. There were some other options that were considered, but essentially, working with Iowa Grant with a shared choir position, they realized that the 2 courses for choir would also need some prep time, and they finally settled in at 0.35 FTE, which is a change from the personnel committee. So the recommendation was actually a 3.1 FTE to give the teacher, that's a shared contract with Iowa Grant, the opportunity to work with our program. We felt that best balanced the needs and put the FTE where the kids were in the short term. The long-term plan would have been to increase the FTE as the numbers in band continue to increase over time. We felt that was the best option given that scenario, but once that option was shared with the music department and we had further discussions through the personnel committee and following, there was an alternative option that we would also recommend. That option found Mr. Nevers willing to go back and receive the general music certification, which reduces some of the overload that Mr. Cooley is currently taking on. He also was willing to take on an additional CAP course, which is a dual enrollment credit course in music theory in addition to his music and culture. So he'd be teaching 2 college level courses, his 9 through 12 band, retaining 5th grade band, which was not part of the original discussion, as well as picking up general music. That would allow Mr. Cooley to remain a full-time teacher teaching 6th through 8th grade band and 6th through 12th choir. It does allow Mr. Nevers to go back and get his general music certification, which will help us not only this year, but for many years to come, as that inflexibility really created some challenges with our scheduling. But it does force us to combine minimally a choir, if not a choir and a band, to 6th and 8th grade. And typically the music program has preferred a 6th grade choir and 7th, 8th grade choir, as well as a 6th grade band and a 7th and 8th grade band. We continue to look at the scheduling challenges that are around that and trying to get students also into some of their other requirements like physical education and so forth. And there will be some certain scheduling challenges, and we may not be able to get kids into the preferred schedules, but we do believe we can make it work. Both of those options are before the board. The second option wasn't available at the personnel committee meeting because we weren't aware that Mr. Nevers was willing to go back to school to receive additional certifications. So I would open it up for any clarification or questions that are needed, and the administrative team's here to handle some of the scheduling questions, which would certainly be challenging for us.
Well, I'm rather impressed. That's probably the logical conclusion to the situation. And I applaud Mr. Nevers on being able to agree, and I don't know how much input he had on this, but it's looks to me like that's about the best sort of a result you could come to. So.
And it doesn't require a motion, right? If we go with that, that's the status quo, more or less,
I
right?
would concur, yes.
Correct.
You
It's
okay with
just,
this?
I just was gonna say, I think it's unfortunate that this was on the agenda as it was, and that we've gone all around and got everybody, up in arms about something that clearly could have been avoided if this had just been worked out, and I just find it regrettable, that's all.
It doesn't solve our separation of 6th grade choir and 6th grade band, though, like we would like to see it. And it will still cause scheduling issues.
It was timely as well because of the April 29th deadline for a non-renewal notice. So if this were to be a viable option, the board would need to take action on that this month. And prior to tonight's meeting, I've never heard of an expressed interest by Mr. Nevers to go back to get the certification. I'm not sure if it would have been forthcoming on its own or not, that's speculative. But we do, like Mr. Kinch said, we have a good solution, and it matters not at this point.
Okay. Any other comments? Board, we'll move on then. Back to the passenger van. Let's get that out of the way.
We have our oldest passenger van is a 2004. It has currently 122,000 miles on it. There's a 2014 van that Mr. Paul Skill shared with me is now being offered for sale at a price of $22,798. We have 2 additional vans that are 2007s, so trying to be proactive and not get into a lot of unnecessary repairs and try to spread out the replacement of the vans so that we're not log jammed with 3 van replacements all at one time. We recommend replacing this van. We do have budget dollars available for this, and it would be my recommendation to proceed.
Did we purchase the current van that we have new?
No, we did not. I don't think we've ever purchased a new van, at least, certainly not in my 5 years, and prior to that, I'm pretty sure Roger said they had bought that, again, used, or like 2 or 3 years old. I don't remember the history of the 2004 specifically, that was before my time.
Anybody look this up in the Blue Book at all?
Yeah, Blue Book is also in your book.
What is it?
Yep. That is on page 107, I believe.
Do we maximize the use of these vans, Lou?
They're used constantly. In fact, so much so that the FFA group would be interested in purchasing the existing van just to give us additional relief. It's hard to secure a van. Angie schedules them. I think, would you speak to how busy they are or not?
They're used a lot, as the other alternative is to schedule a bus when a bus isn't needed at full capacity, so it's a lot cheaper for the organization to go with vans. So they're used a lot by all groups, classes.
That was the reason I asked you if we purchased it new, because if it's had, say, looks like approximately 90,000 miles in 12, well, when did we purchase the 2004?
I don't know. But it's certainly more than 5 years ago.
Well, there's a rental, it's probably the same. They could only rent those for so long before they usually sell them, so let's say what, you got, bought it 2007, probably, we're at 9 years, 10,000 miles a year. I would say we ought to calculate it. Are they all getting the same amount of mileage on them? Of course, our cost per mile would differ from a private party or someone because of the well, you still have to figure depreciation, you have to figure replacement costs.
So on our existing van, Lou, you said the FFA would be interested in purchasing that?
Correct.
Particular van?
We have 3 of those?
We do. We have 2004 and 2 2007s. I don't have the mileage on the newer age vehicles, but this is by far our oldest vehicle with the most mileage. On trade-in, the estimation on the van was somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000, so roughly 3,500 would actually be used to offset the sale price, which would bring it down below 20,000 to roughly 19.
If the FFA purchases a van, then wouldn't the needs for van go down?
Overall, yes.
So couldn't we just approve the sale of the van to the FFA and just not purchase another van?
We would still be short. It would be very tough to get by with just 2 vans.
Most of the time, groups take two
at a
vans
time.
at a time. It's one of those, I have 15 kids. To take a bus for 15 kids over, Mike Robinson, you jump in and take it, and Mr. Paulskill, you run the other group over. It's cheaper for us to take the 2 vans at any given time. So to say if the FFA bought one, that we would only use one, that, I don't think that's an accurate statement.
Maybe we borrow it.
We might pay them some rent, right? Lease it back from the FFA.
Well, it's looks like it's quite a bit of a convenience factor then.
It certainly, no offense to the bus barn, they want a week notice.
Yeah, you can't do that on
And that doesn't necessarily coincide with, what's going on, and, I have this opportunity to run these kids out to this farm, but I can only take 9 kids plus the driver.
But a lot of times, as it
Oh, they're
is,
9
those
passengers.
vans are scheduled pretty far out in advance because of the demand for them. there are times when vans are not available because all three are being used, so they have to go in.
What if we, now that there's an enterprise in town, what if we were to rent that extra van on an as-needed basis and see how that works out?
I don't want to instead of purchasing,
Yes.
they may not keep it around.
Be fine if they had one there.
That's it.
That's gonna be the first problem.
And at
I
that
haven't
point,
seen
we
one
might
there
use
yet.
contract for services with the bus company at that point. More expensive.
I know the FFA budget's got the money to buy it. Did the money change hands?
No offer's been suggested. Roger just relayed to me that if Roger said he's got 3 interested people or parties in the vans, we would do a sealed bid and allow somebody to bid on the van, and the highest price would be the one that would retain it. So it wouldn't necessarily go to the FFA, but I think it's fair based on the trade-in price that we would not let it go for less than $2,000.
Did the purchase of this van come from Roger's desk?
It did.
All right, do we have a motion to approve or not approve?
We're approving to buy it and sell the others to somebody else.
I think the motion would be to approve to buy this one, and then we would certainly sell that one irregardless.
What the condition is the body? Rusted or on or?
Fair. I don't think there's an exorbitant amount of rust, but
Had some.
has some.
I guess one way to look at it is we'd expect our bus provider to maintain and equip us with good buses. I feel the same way about our school transportation services.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion by Jeff, second by Larry to approve. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call. Angie?
Basting,
Yes.
Dolphin,
Yes.
Hay,
No.
Kinch,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stevenson,
No.
Stefas.
Yes. Let's do our superintendent's report next. We'll kind of go back there.
There is 3 items listed on the superintendent's report, a 4th one that I would add. Let me start with the 4th one, and just wanted to make the board aware that one of our contracted for services employees, Janice Neal, unfortunately suffered a significant stroke over the weekend, and she is currently at St. Mary's. I was hearing day to day it's progressing in a positive way, but it is certainly a significant loss to our district in the short term, but more importantly, just wishing her a speedy recovery and a full recovery as she transitions. We've been working with Dodgeville to get a transition plan in place in her absence. This was certainly unforeseen, but we just keep our prayers with her and Brian, her husband, and family for a quick recovery. So I just want to share that with the board. The elections obviously are concluded. We did the canvassing today with district staff to certify the actual election. Andy Bush was elected with 1,103 votes, Larry Steffes with 1,060, Glenn Pilling, third candidate, 713 votes. The new term of office does begin April 25th, so we will have an opportunity at that time to reseat Mr. Steffes as the incumbent and Mr. Bush at that time for the first time. At our May meeting, that is when we typically select officers, set meeting dates, and stipends and so forth. So I will inform the board and solicit your interest in serving in an officer position, and we will get that together for our May meeting. On the advocacy front, the state budget, or the state Senate did go into recess, and and there was no new legislation that came about at the conclusion of our April meeting, but since then, the federal government has confirmed John King Jr. as the Senate confirmed him as the new appointee. So he will take over running. The biggest piece would be the reauthorization of the No Child Left Behind. He inherits that new ESSA Act, and he will work on implementing, which pushes a lot of the rights down to the states to make a lot of local decisions rather than at the federal level. So he replaces Arnie Duncan. Early today, we were confirmed that Mineral Point won the WIAA Sportsmanship Award. This is the award that is recognized for the players on the court that use proper etiquette and language, for the coaches and their demeanor on the benches, and looking at technicals and or just profanity or other things. They're looking at the crowd's behavior and looking for inappropriate chants or boos or air balls or those kinds of things. It is very seldom in my career that I've recognized a school district that actually wins the state tournament and also wins the WIA Sportsmanship Award. I think that's a testimony to the entire community and what they brought to the atmosphere in an appropriate way. And it should be noted that not only did Mitch, as the head coach, receive this honor here, but he also received it at Pecatonica, also winning the state title. So 2 times in his career, he has shown the Sportsmanship Award while winning the state title. Typically, I sometimes see this go to the team that places second or third. It's kind of the I'm sorry sympathy vote. You did great, but you didn't win it all, but we still give you some type of an award. And it's really, I think, a recognition of the entire program from top to bottom that this community supported. And I'd just like to congratulate Mitch, the players, the community, the fans, the parents for a job well done.
I think Vicki has a big part in that too.
I agree.
On the floor.
Just one story is we were leaving between sessions, the next group comes in and replaces our team that's leaving. And there were some Hudson kids that were coming in, I think right at the tail end of our game as we were departing. And one student talked to, I believe, Ms. Dahl, or actually it was Mr. Paulskill, Andy Paulskill, and said, can you please try to keep the Hudson kids in line because they're making us look bad and they're not our kids. I think they really take it seriously. They take a lot of pride in having good sportsmanship, and that's just an example of not only monitoring themselves, but the other students to make sure we don't look bad. And it's not of our accord. So, again, job well done.
We'll expect that next year.
No pressure. All right, we will go back to where we left off with the budget. Are there any better ideas out there?
Could we do half a step and the lane adjustment? Can we figure out what that would
Without CPI?
be? With the CPI.
CPI, half a step, but skipping 2 lanes before fully funding steps would not be supported by the union leadership.
I was thinking more in the line of keeping the steps and doing half on the lane.
That could be.
And then next year, plan to fully fund the lane adjustment?
I don't want to make any promises, but, I mean, that
It would mean the spirit of
something
the
that,
agreement.
I mean, at least that way they would get something.
And that would trim off approximately $11,000 then.
Roughly, half of the 23 would be about 12.5. One and a half funded.
We're down to 7,000, 8,000 roughly.
I just think this is such a unique situation, and the risk of losing those folks that have obtained their masters, which there's a very good chance. And I think it's for $11,000, $11,500, I think is what I figured out with the math. I mean, it's an odd scenario for us to be in this year, but I think given the agreement we had with the union, that we should take care of the steps first and then move to the lane. I think it's worth it. I realize we're jumping way above what we had budgeted, but from the sounds of what Lucas said, we can absorb that and we can still make this happen and keep our teachers happy and reward them for a job well done. And the folks who got their masters, I think by shown in this step of good faith, I think should keep them as teachers in our district for a long time to come.
We had some letters that people were wanting to submit, I mean, is that part of this main movement, or we're gonna pay them beside that?
No, the 3 letters that were written to the board were expressly asking the board to consider their
To
liens.
change them to that?
Yes. You know, there's a point that would be either around this point or the 1.0 FTE that I think is important, is that traditionally we have always levied up to the revenue cap, and the only way you can exceed the revenue cap is by going to referendum. Whether we put this change in place or not, whether we add the 1.0 FTE teacher or not, we're still bound by the revenue cap. So the idea that the reduction of $11,000 is going to have any material benefit to the taxpayer isn't real. We're still levying to the maximum, which is way below what we need. We have more needs than we have dollars available. So the levy amount is going to be the same regardless of whether we fund the position or not, whether we do lanes or not. We're still getting the same share from the state, and we still levy the balance from the local taxpayers. And the amount that we're asking from the local taxpayers in dollars and cents is less than what we asked last year, even though our levy will be higher because the state shares portion is lower. But the amount of dollars that we had last year, this year is immaterial of what we do here tonight. So I feel like there's a sense of civic duty to show the taxpayers that we're reducing the budget when in essence it doesn't really impact their final tax bill. If you were to under levy, which is a solution that would actually show impact to the levy, there is some significant consequences that go along with that I want you to fully understand, and I wouldn't recommend under levying because that impacts your revenue limit for years to come. And you can never regain those dollars. So that's a piece that I just want to make sure we're clear, because I think there's a misperception that by being fiscally responsible, you're going to save real dollars in the community, and that's just not the case.
Well, there's an aspect that nobody has spoken to, and that's if you raise there, is not just a one-time thing, because that's going to be the base for the next 10, 20, 30 years, however long it works. So you have to multiply that amount by 10, 20, 30 times is what you're actually spending.
Agreed, and as you think of that too, we have very tenured staff with masters and so forth that are going to also be falling off that payroll in the next 3 to 5 years. There's a large group of teachers that are very tenured and in time will retire. And then you see some of those savings back when you hire back a teacher with a bachelor's or at a lower salary. So that is the ebb and flow of the door that opens and closes and revolves.
Do you think you could find savings elsewhere in the budget to make up for this?
Absolutely.
And so that we don't have to dip into the fund balance?
I would like to reserve the opportunity to dig into the $27,000 amount, but if you're saying hold it at 0, it would be tougher. And this early in the stage, it would be very hard for me to give you that guarantee, but I would work very hard to certainly not exceed the $27,000. And if we have to make some really tough belt tightening to make this happen this year, I would pledge to come up with a solution.
I'll make a motion to approve the CPI steps and lanes.
I'll second it.
So the steps and the lanes?
CPI
CPI steps.
That's for all staff?
steps.
The lanes
These
are
are
for
those who are still
Lanes are
on the
just for those
thing. The CPI is for everybody, and the lanes are for the 5 who were promised.
That's what I want to understand.
So a motion by Matt, second by Lisa, and that overall package is the $91,965, is that what I'm seeing?
No,
No?
it would be 114,965, I think, because aren't you needing to add 23,000?
That's included in the step 6, so that's the increase from 5 to 6. The difference between the 68,905 and the 91,965 is 23,000.
Okay. Okay, all right.
So basically, your proposal is what we're voting on,
That is correct.
your recommendation. Any other discussion? All right, roll call, Andy.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Basting,
Yes.
Dolphin,
Abstained.
Hay,
Yes.
Kinch,
Yes.
Stefas.
No. Why would you abstain?
Not sure I understand that formula there, for sure. Like he said, that's a $8,000 raise from maybe long time. Do we have the option to change that numbers up there ever?
Well, that's the baseline we start at next year. We could reduce it in the year.
Yeah, annually you have an option to change the numbers.
But we haven't changed for quite a while.
No. Yeah, this is, our steps and lanes, it's changed quite a bit
Yeah.
over the last 6 years since
Well,
I've
it's a lot
been
like 2
here.
years
It
ago.
has changed quite a bit, yeah.
How long ago was it that there was a salary freeze for
Yeah.
staff members here as well?
It's a 2-year salary freeze.
That one I looked like, that was nightmare.
Okay. So it's non-exempt staff without individual contracts.
And this would be all other staff, support staff, clerical, custodian, instructional assistants. We'd be recommending a CPI as well as step for all staff members. There is no lanes in this particular salary schedule.
So the cost of this recommendation is $77.53, your entire cost, okay. That's a one point.
Yeah, I can approve.
Motion by Julie, second by Matt. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Basting,
Yes.
Dolphin,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Kinch,
What was the motion? I didn't,
To approve the non-exempt staff without contracts, like what they had recommended.
CPI.
A 1.41% increase. Glenn?
In advance on the salary schedule. 20 cents.
You got a step in the CPI, they don't have lanes for this group. It's approval of the step in the CPI.
that's, no.
No? Oh, sorry. Lindsay,
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes. Motion carries.
Yes.
Sorry, it's okay.
So open session, we are done. Motion to go into closed session, then we'll take a 5-minute break. Motion by Julie, second.
Second, at least.
Take a 5-minute break.
Okay, we have a motion by Stevenson and a second by Dolphin to move back into open session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are in open session. We have a motion from member Basting and a second from member Lindsay to move Tracy Weigel to a salary of $13.76, starting with the 16-17 school year. We'll do a roll call on that. Member Hayes,
Yes.
Dolphin,
Yes.
Basting,
Yes.
Kinch,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Stefas.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. We need a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn, I gotta get the paper.
Motion by Kinch, second by
Lindsay?
Lindsay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Silly, man, just